Wow, wow, wow. Jorgen Strand Larsen cannot go anywhere this season. He has been absolutely unbelievable tonight. And I'm not just saying that because he scored. I've said the whole summer that Jorgen Strand Larsen cannot leave Wolves. And what an unbelievable performance from him. Completely turned the tide of that game tonight. Wolves 2-1 down, going into the final sort of 20 minutes, really, 15, 20 minutes of the game. Jorgen Strand Larsen comes on, completely changes it. The first goal, the ability to react to that in that speed, at that speed, if you watch it, the ball comes out to Andre, he hits it very, very hard, drives it, keeper spills it. Larson reacts so quickly and he puts it in on his left foot into the roof of the net, and it's an outrageous finish. Leaning back, off balance, left footed, the ball's coming out at a ridiculous speed. He just slots it. That is what a proper number 9 does. And the second goal, delicious, I have to say. Now, Jackson Tachowna, what an unbelievable ball that is from Jackson Tachua. It is outrageous. The cross is perfectly weighted, perfect direction on it, floats it up. Larson gets up like a salmon. How do you like them apples? Straight in the back of the net. And it was a brilliant, brilliant goal again. And Jorgen Strand Larsen is instrumental to Wolves this season. If they want to get anywhere this season, they cannot sell him in the remaining 6 days of this window. He is so, so crucial to this club. And the club, in my personal opinion, will be in big trouble if they do lose him this summer ultimately. I'd love to know what you think about that. But there'll still be people in the comments going, yeah, but he don't create enough. He don't create enough. But he does. He clearly does. He clearly creates enough because he scores goals. If the team create for him, he will score goals. I've been saying it the last few weeks when people have been going, well, he don't do anything. He don't do anything. But he does. It just create for him. Create chances for the man. He's had 2 chances tonight. He's put them both away in a minute. It's outrageous. Chachua has created far more in the time he's come on, and ultimately he came on at the same time as Larson, really. And they've created so much. And don't get me wrong, I thought the subs were pretty negative generally. Obviously, other than Larson, of course. I thought it was quite negative taking off Bellegarde for a more defensive midfielder in Joao Gomez. But ultimately, they were good subs in the end, and I can't criticise them now. Let's talk about the first half. Wolves were poor. The goals are poor. Especially the Paquetá one. The header, it's a brilliant header from him. But how on earth he's allowed to get that much space in the box, and Bowen's allowed that much space to just freely whip it into the area, to be honest, is a mad one. Agbadu again, I have to speak about him. He was absolutely dreadful again. Just so poor, and it's really concerning now because it's not just a one-off. I thought, he might just have had a slow start to the season, he might pick up, but it's every week he's making an error that leads to a goal, every week without fail. He didn't track his runner, nice and simple, 5 foot, what can he can't be about 6 foot, maybe 5'11", Lucas Paquetá, gets into the box, sticks his head on something, scores, they go and, go in quite comfortably, and Wolves are, flat, if we're being honest, in that first half. Hwang Hee-chan, it'd be a disservice to the club if I didn't speak about him, to be honest. Just dreadful. In the kindest way possible. He's a nice guy, and I'd like to see him succeed at Wolves, but he's dreadful, isn't he, really? Wolves should have taken that £20 million in hindsight from Marseille, sorry. They should have snapped their hands off for it, to be honest. I just thought he was so poor. The penalty is dreadful. Again, another poor penalty from him. We saw it against Stoke in pre-season as well. Hit it off the post. Luckily, Rodrigo Gomez is there to react and make things happen. And generally, for me, Hwang is just not the level required for Wolverhampton Wanderers. And I do think people are taking it a bit too far when they say that he's only there for shirt sales. I think that's absolutely ridiculous, to be honest. If he wasn't somewhat of a decent footballer, he wouldn't be there. But equally, I think he's nowhere near the level that Wolves need at the moment. And I think he could do far worse than getting a move. And Wolves could do far worse than moving him on in the remaining 6 days of the window. But I don't think that will happen. Now, Newcastle fans are probably watching this thinking, we need a striker bad and we need Larson bad. And they do. They do need Larson. They need a number 9 before the end of the window. They need a top number 9 as well. And Jorgen Strand Larsen is that. He's a more traditional number 9. He's a traditional number 9 in the sense that he's not one of these players, as I've said, that creates a lot for himself. His movement is exceptional. His finishing is very, very good. He does also miss a fair few as well, of course. But in that Newcastle team, with the amount of chances they do create, he would score so many. But as I've said, there's absolutely zero chance Wolves can afford to let him leave. Now, I think the game in itself is very interesting. Johnston, as expected, very poor. No real shocks there. No one's getting out of their seat and gasping at that, are they really? It was nice to see Jean Arias. I thought he had a really good sort of performance, to be honest. I thought he looked really, really good. throughout really his time on the pitch. And again, you see the passion and the excitement when Wolves get that goal with Larson, and then the second one, it's just bodies everywhere, and the Molineux's back, and it's, bouncing again, which is nice to see, especially for a cup game that no one really cared about. People were, leaving early in that game as well, because the quality, let's be honest, wasn't really there until Larson come onto the pitch. I thought overall Rodrigo Gomez had a good game. I have to say, Rodrigo Gomez did have a good game, and I do like him. I thought Mosquera looked miles off it really, but of course that is expected with his injury and getting back up to full speed against a full Premier League side that realistically, it's one of West Ham's better squads they could have put out tonight, to be honest. And in terms of their goals, Kyle Walker-Peters' ball is absolutely brilliant on his left peg. A player that I said Wolves should have gone for this summer on a free. I think he's, obviously on the fringe of that, the periphery of that West Ham squad, really. But played really well for me tonight again. I think he's a great ball in. Souček, of course, very dominant in the air. It's not the first time we've seen him arriving late at the back post to ultimately nod it in. And generally, I think it's a really, really interesting sort of game because, like I say, West Ham were relatively full strength. Wolves weren't. Ultimately, when their quality came on, it shone through. And yeah, I think it's been a very interesting way to sort of... Wolves needed a win tonight. Let's get that make that abundantly clear. Wolves needed 3 points. Well, not 3 points, but they needed a win tonight. They needed to advance to the next round, and they have. And that is massive. Now, I think in terms of confidence, it needs to be massive. And they need to look at this as a building block and something to build on and go forward with now, and hopefully take some momentum into the Premier League season this weekend against Everton, where Totti Gomez will be back in the side as well. Obviously, missed this game through suspension. But generally, I think if Wolves keep Larson, I can see them staying up quite comfortably, as I've been pretty adamant throughout the whole season. Now, don't get me wrong, I've been concerned at the last few performances, but I would be very surprised if Wolves go down. I wouldn't like to see them go down, as I've said. I think they've got too many quality players to go down, but equally so have all the teams around them as well. So it's going to be a really interesting season to see how it plays out. I'd love to know your thoughts in the comments as well. I really do want to know your thoughts because I think it's going to be very, very interesting. We will do a 5 things we learned from this match as well tomorrow, so I'm sure you'll see that breakdown, and I do hope you enjoy that as well when I watch the game back, assess it from a tactical standpoint and sort of look at it without the sort of emotional lens and the lens of watching the game just generally. Now I want to look at it from a tactical perspective and break it down as I always do, and you guys seem to enjoy them. But the final point I wanted to speak about was Vitor Pereira. Now, as I said, I thought his subs were quite negative. Ultimately, it's gone the other way. But I do think tactically, I've got a lot of concerns about Vitor Pereira. Now, people might think this is crazy given the fact that Wolves have won tonight, and it might seem like I'm trying to put a damper on things, and I completely understand that. But for me, I think there's a lot of concerns with Vitor Pereira. I don't think he's adaptable enough. And I said this when Wolves were going on those winning streaks with him last season, and it felt, to me personally, I don't want to take anything from the squad, anything away from the players that did so in that 6-game run. But the teams they beat, generally, Wolves should have been beaten anyway with the quality in that squad. And it was nothing really special. They just needed a bit more belief, I think, and that's what Vitor Pereira brought to this club. He brought belief, he brought positivity, and you looked at him in those first few months, and he was so positive and upbeat and excited. And I do hope that this is one of those things that could springboard him back to feeling like that. But just generally in his press conferences, in his post-match interviews, his general demeanour seems. He looked like he's aged about 40 years since working at Wolves. He's only been there since January. He looks like, he looks very, very, well, December. But he looks very, very, he looks like a different man, to be quite honest. But I do think Vitor Pereira, there are concerns tactically, as I've said, not adaptable enough, very predictable. Wolves have got away with one tonight, but equally, you can't take anything away from Jorgen Strand Larsen, and I absolutely do not want to, because I think he is exceptional. Wolves cannot afford to lose him, in my personal opinion, as I've said numerous times, and I'm pretty sure most of you will share that sentiment, other than the 5 or 10 people amongst you who still think that he's pretty poor. But equally, if Wolves create stuff, he scores goals. And for me, Fer Lopez, another one that I just want to quickly touch on before I do end this video. Fer Lopez, for me, he impressed me. I've seen people criticise him, which I find a bit crazy. And obviously he does get subbed as well. But I thought Fer Lopez looked bright, and I've been calling for him to start for, since pre-season, really. I've liked him. He's sharp. He's willing to do the running, as well as being technically secure and good on the ball and wanting to make things happen. So I do think we will see a lot more of Fer Lopez based off tonight's performance, and I do hope we do. because I do think he's got all the tools to be a good player for Wolves, and I do think he will make a difference in games for Wolves moving into this season. Same with Jean Arias on the opposite side, but I do think he will be the more consistently starting than Fer Lopez, as I've said. Now, if you did enjoy this video, I'd really appreciate it if you would like it. Subscribe to the channel if you're not already as well, because we are trying to reach 2.2k, which is absolutely ludicrous in itself that that's even a possibility. Thank you so much for the support on the channel. We're about 40 subscribers away, I think, so if you do want to subscribe, I'd very much appreciate it. I hope you did enjoy the game. I was going to go tonight, but I thought I'm not paying £15 to watch that, and I'm glad I didn't, to be fair, although it was a good game of football. Thank you all for watching this video. I'd very much appreciate it if you would do all the things I just mentioned. Check out my socials in the description as well if you want to follow me on Twitter or TikTok, and I'll see you in the next one.